should know this well. Ain't trying to wish you ill. Hope this life treats you swell. Oh yeah, PS, go fuck yourself.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Haji and welcome back to my prediction series. Today we're taking on the Week 12 NFL matchup of Carolina Panthers at the Oakland Raiders. But let's get back into last week's crazy game against the Houston Texans in Mexico City at Azteca Stadium for the NFL International Series. This game, we had one team play probably the second best game of their season, and the other team play the second worst game of their season. And the team that played the worst game of their season ended up winning this in a very controversial decision. I wouldn't say a controversial decision, but a game that had a lot of controversial play calls by their officials. We're going to get right into that before we get into anything that happened in this game. There was a play in the first quarter where DeAndre Hopkins hit a slant, hit the outside edge, and bolted up the sideline for a touchdown. The play was initially ruled dead about the time he turned the corner and was considered out of bounds. This problem, the Texans have a legitimate gripe with this call because whether he was out of bounds or not, the referee should have allowed the play to continue in order to review it afterwards. Because the call on the field was a dead ball, with the play stops, it doesn't matter how far DeAndre Hopkins ran down the field after that, which was the wrong call. The national TV broadcast, it was like his fourth step down the sideline of the replay that they show. And they wouldn't show the first step, but they would show the second and third and then fade out before the fourth. And the fourth step was the one step in question where they kept saying Hopkins was in, Hopkins was in. And there is plenty of photographic evidence out there that Hopkins was clearly out, which, however this play goes or not, the Texans were still in the red zone with a first down, and they're really close to the red zone. It wasn't like they were down in our fucking right on the 20 or something like that, and they had 80 yards to go still. They still had a legitimate shot at tying this up. The next play, and this was probably the biggest issue that I saw from the refs all game. This came on the second to last drive of the game. Houston had the momentum, had driven down the field into field goal range while appearing to get the first down on a Lamar Miller run on third down. I think if you look at the replay, I think if the Texans would have challenged that play, the ref surely would have overturned the spot and given them the first down. But they didn't. It didn't get challenged, and the Texans went for it on fourth down instead. Again, the runner, I think it was that Hearns kid, appeared to have got the spot, got just enough over it to get the first down. Well, one thing I noticed on the replay, because when they measured this, it came up short, like a cunt hair short. Like the width of a credit card, like fucking tiny. The tiniest of increments that they called them short. But if you look at the replay, there was a bunch of Texans getting in the way, and it looked like they pushed the ref a little bit, and it changed the spot of the ball. I'm not going to say that was surely the reason why that got overturned like that, but, it was a bad-looking play, and there was very bad officiating on both sides of the field, because there was the Hopkins play, which I do feel the Hopkins play was right. I feel like the third and fourth down calls were bullshit. But there was all, this goes on the other side too. The Raiders had there was a pass interference call on DJ Hayden in the fourth quarter, I believe, where the ball was thrown like four or five rows deep into the end zone, into the stands in the end zone. Like, it was an uncatchable ball. Like, you could have given Shaquille O'Neal a trampoline and a fucking tennis racket, and he wouldn't be able to make a play on that ball. Like, there was just a bad officiating across the board. I'm not going to say that it was anything that outdoes what happened to the Texans, because the Texans got hosed. But you're talking to the wrong fucking team when it comes to getting screwed by the refs, when it comes to, outcomes of games. because it's been year in and year out that the refs have been kind of hosing the Raiders down. It's like, we just beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their house in overtime after resetting the fucking league's record of penalties in a single game. Good teams find a way to win, and bad teams find ways to lose. I'm not saying the Houston Texans are a bad team, but the Raiders are better right now. And you want to look at, a good thing to look at in the different, a difference that I saw in this game is the difference between the coaching calls of Jack Del Rio and of Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien, you're a gutless fuck. Spineless, sissy motherfucker. You sit there at your post-game press conference and whine and cry about the refs. Boo fucking who, man? You're crying. You played the fucking Raiders, man. You've merely adopted the hatred for refs. We were born in it. We have been molded by it. We did not see a penalty against our opponents until we were already men. Keep your fucking whining to yourself, Bill O'Brien. You fucking hack. That fucking press conference was so goddamn bad. Him just crying and whining. It's like, you spineless fuck. It's like, even after the Lamar Miller, the overturns on the third down and the fourth down call, you have been running the ball down the Raiders' throats all goddamn game. All fucking game. And you go to punt the ball. You punted the ball twice, and you punted the ball to the Raiders with 3 minutes left in the go. You gave the ball back over to a team with a 7-0 lead on you, and you give the ball back to the number one offense of the league and then turn around and bitch to the refs. No, motherfucker, bitch to yourself, you spineless fuck. The Raiders didn't have the greatest series of plays after they got the ball back with 3 minutes to go. They got forced into a 4th and 1, up by 7, and they go for it. They give it to Latavius Murray. He breaks through the line. He picks up the first down. The Raiders go into victory formation. That right there is how you win a fucking football game. Is having the killer instinct to go out there and make those gutsy calls and win the game. The Houston Texans were playing not to lose. They weren't playing to win the game. The Houston Texans came out and they played a better game than the Oakland Raiders. On offense, on defense, on special teams, I think the Raiders still kind of kicked their ass. But the Raiders had like 20 yards rushing. I mean, we went and ran the ball down the Broncos' throats, and the Texans had every answer for it. The Texans played a fucking fantastic game. It's just Bill O'Brien's spineless coaching is what cost them the game. The refs helped, but a lot of it falls onto Bill O'Brien. You know, that is the kind of coach that his coaching decisions were borderline malpractice. They were so fucking bad. And his defensive line was playing out of their goddamn minds. Jadeveon Clowney was playing like an absolute monster. That was everything that the Texans have been looking for since they drafted him, was that kind of a game. I don't know why. The Raiders, like I've said in previous videos, like to run these 6 and 7 blocker sets on the O-line. And for whatever reason in this game, we saw a lot of Clive Walford and a lot of Denver Kirkland out there blocking Clowney. I don't know if it was the thin air getting to Tyson Musgrave, but those just no. We would never again block somebody like that of that caliber with Kirkland and Walford. I understand what you're trying to do here, but like with the 6 and 7 set, 6 and 7 linemen, what the Raiders are trying to do essentially is push the edge rushers out a little farther to the left and to the right, so it changes their angle and it makes them have to run farther to the quarterback. And then in turn, Derek Carr can step up in the pocket and avoid those edge rushers altogether. So schematically, it's a great idea. But when you play against people like Clowney, or thank God J.J. Watt wasn't in that game, because that could have been a totally different game. We're going to start seeing stuff like that. I mean, it worked well against Von Miller and the Broncos and their style of defense, but it just wasn't working against the Texans. Man, this game, though, we with 20 rushing yards in the first half, like the run game was shot down. I'm going to give Bill Musgrave some credit here because he pretty much just stopped calling pass plays and went straight and gave the ball to Derek Carr and was like, hey, man, go win this shit. And that's exactly what Derek did, man. I mean, I don't want to, I'm just going to come out and say it now. Derek Carr is going to be the 2016 NFL MVP. Bet the fucking farm on it. This kid, there is no reason the Raiders should be anywhere where they are without DC. He's just played out of his mind in every single game. Even his bad games are good games. Like, he just finds a way to throw this team on his back and get wins. And it's like with the penalties and with everything like that was, as the Texans would say, was gifted to the Raiders, Derek Carr still had to go out there and throw the ball and get, pick up the Amari Cooper touchdown or the Richard touchdown or the Olawale touchdown. I mean, he had no help in the running game from Murray, from Richard, from Washington. The running backs, this is kind of interesting because the running backs had like 11 catches for like 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then they had like some like fucking 15 carries for 20 yards or something. I mean, they didn't produce in the running game, but they produced in the passing game, which just, it's something fun to watch with this Raiders team right now. Because we're seeing, if they take away Cooper and Crabtree, we still got Murray out there. We still got Roberts. We still got Richard. We still got Washington. We still got Walford. We still got Olawale. There's too many weapons on this team to completely shut them down all the time. And that's what we're starting to see, is we're starting to see Derek use all his weapons and figuring out ways to win. This team has finally learned how to win, and we are now 10 games into the season, and we are one game, Raiders fans, away from breaking out of the dark days. I mean, this next matchup we got next week against the Carolina Panthers is a home game for the Raiders. The Panthers have been struggling so far this year. They're definitely having their Super Bowl hangover. I know they lost, but it's still kind of the Super Bowl hangover. They're currently 4-6. This is a team that at the beginning of the season I had chalked up as a loss. I still feel like it's a trap game no matter how well the Raiders are playing right now. I mean, you can't just overlook this team right now because they're 4-6. And they have a really good defense. Even without Josh Norman, even with some of the games they've been having, their defense is still good. It's going to still be one of the best defenses that we've played. But what concerns me about this team is if the Panthers were looking at their upcoming games, it may be a game to start getting stuff back on track. They're not going to make the playoffs, more than likely. But a game to get themselves back on track, I think, would be against the Raiders because they match up well against our defense. We still have a little bit of trouble stopping the run. And tight ends, that fucking TJ fucking Fedora Tipper, whatever the hell his name is. I mean, he had like 6 catches for 86 yards in this game. And it's like, if we're letting tight ends like that run wild on us still, what's going to happen when we face, Gronkowski and Bennett? He's like, are those guys going to put up 400 yards in a quarter? Because it fucking sure as shit looks like it. So this game worries me. Because, like I said, the Panthers have a good running game, and they have a good tight end, and they have a good quarterback. Those three right there, that combination right there is gonna, I think, it's gonna cause some trouble here. I don't. The Raiders, in my mind, right now, 8-2, have severely overachieved to where, I mean, I had them at 11-5 for the year, but they're overachieving when it comes to being on pace to matching the record that I predicted. So this game here, man, this game against the Panthers, I think we're going to see a lot of Greg Olsen. I think we're going to see a lot of John Stewart. I think we're going to see Cam on some bootlegs. I think this is a game where the Panthers get back on track. I'm going to go with the Panthers winning this one 26-23. I think it's going to be a close matchup. I think unless this defense does something crazy this week to stop the tight ends, I think we're going to see a lot of long, sustained drives by the Panthers because Greg Olsen is just going to move the chains on us. And Gano, their kicker, is going to be. I think they're going to hit a lot. I think they're going to hit a few field goals in this game. I think it's going to be a lot tighter than normal. I mean, if the Raiders come out and just beat the shit out of the Panthers, man, I don't want to book our seats to the playoffs already, but I'm tempering my expectations right now because I don't. how the Raiders are performing this year is kind of how I expected them to perform next year. I expected them to be good this year, but I expected them to be, somewhere between 8 and 11 wins. And right now they're looking at, a 12-win season if they can keep this up. Jack Del Rio is 5-5 after his bye weeks, so we'll see how that goes. But 26-23, I think Panthers pick up the win here, and the Raiders move to 8-3. I think we're going to have to wait another week to see the Raiders bust into the 9 wins category for the first time since 2002. But man, this is the time to be excited. The Raiders are doing something. This is special. What we've been watching, the progression of Derek Carr over this season has been special. Everything about it. I still don't want to be one of those people that's like, fuck yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. Fuck you guys, because I know how easily some of we're a team that's 8-2, but it's like we could be fucking 2-8. Like we haven't been blowing teams out. We've been winning by some craziness, some killer instinct plays, but until we start doing what the Patriots do and blowing people out by 30, I'm just gonna temper my expectations a little bit here. But I'm gonna end it there. I'm rambling a little bit. Let's go 26-23. Carolina Panthers pick up the win. Raiders move to 8-3. But until next week, guys, go fuck yourselves. Go Raiders. Have a good night.